Yes, that was an embarrassing loss in the NIT tournament inside an embarrassingly empty Galgara-Iba arena. But have no fear, spring football season is finally here.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All and hello all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things cowboy and cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen today here on Locked On Oklahoma State. Today's a very interesting day because clearly what happened in basketball, it's rough. And there's a lot of ways that you can overcome the rough parts in life. But you specifically, maybe you should check out FanDuel. That's our partner for the day. They're going to help you improve your life. But goodness me, what a rough loss. We lost to North Texas in the NIT tournament. And, it's just, I don't care that North Texas is pretty good. Like, I get that. I watched the game. Okay. But it's North Texas, right? And we were clearly the best team in the NIT because we were the first team out of making the NCAA tournament. So by default, if you're the best team that didn't get in, then you should logically at least make it to the NIT championship game. Now, I do buy a lot of stock in Mike Boynton. I do think that next year's make or break for him, but it's a make or break for a lot of people, in my personal opinion. And whenever you dive into the basketball side of things, we're going to have the opportunity for a lot of these guys to come back for another year. On top of that, we also have a top 10 recruiting class coming in. So I think we'd be remiss if we didn't give Mike Boynton at least one more opportunity. We're giving coaches opportunities, right? This coming season's a good opportunity for Mike Gundy. And I'll be honest with you, this has been the most difficult process ever. And acquiring some of the nuances of what's going on. So Oklahoma State does a really good job of bottlenecking information and kind of keeping it in-house for the most part. And I understand a good chunk of that. Some of it, obviously, I don't disagree with or I don't agree with. But by and large, I completely get it. So let's kind of break down some of what we do know right now coming into the spring. One of the biggest things is we're going to have almost 30 new players. We got 28 new players right now. And then whenever we go into fall camp, the total will balloon up to 37, 38 new players collectively. And the reason I bring that up is because if you look at some of the interviews recently, you're hearing a lot of things like we have a new scheme here, we have a new fit here, we have a new system here, we have a new design here. And the position changes that you're seeing are very indicative of that. And, we talked, Coach Mike Gundy did talk recently about how we lost a lot of maturity. So if we peel back the layers of the onion, is all this talk setting us up for a quote unquote rebuild? I certainly hope that I'm wrong, but verbiage is important. And the vernacular that you use is typically a pretty good indication of how things are going or what direction things are going. So when you hear a lot of, well, we have new this, new that, new this, new that, new this, new that, new players, new scheme, new fit, new D, new DC, all that. When you hear that, and then you also hear that we lost a lot of maturity, those are usually, right? Those are usually precursors to be prepared for a little bit of a struggle bus. And Gundy did also talk about how, realistically speaking, coming into the season, nobody really knows what they have anymore for the most part, because, again, you're breaking in a lot of new players. Now, this is new territory for Gundy. Gundy has been a pretty staunch defender of not jumping in the portal. Thankfully, we had some coaches on staff that were recruiting heavily in the transfer market, so it worked out well for us. As we've talked about before, If you look at On3 Sports, right, the day of signing day, they had us classified as the number one transfer class in America. 247 Scout, the list goes on and on. They all put us right around that top 5 range for the transfer class. So we know that the transfer portal did work in our favor this year. And the guys that we lost, yeah, it's important. But, I've talked about it on the show. I've been on Twitter Spaces talking about it. Realistically, you got to take into consideration what you lost, okay? We lost Spencer Sanders, which we'll get into here in a little bit. You lose Trace Ford, although Trace Ford was rotating with Colin Oliver as it set. So even though Trace Ford was a potential NFL caliber dude, he could never stay healthy enough to be on the field. And this last season, he was a rotational piece. And then he got injured again. So it's not a big, surprise to me that he transferred. Some of the medical stuff they had happen at Oklahoma State, it was a good opportunity for OU to sales pitch the medical staff and things of that nature. So good on OU, good sales pitch. They took advantage of his situation. So you lose somebody like a Trace Ford. But again, it's not like he was an every down starter anybody. He was somebody that was already rotating. So, yeah, it's a big loss, but it's not as big a loss as people want to put on paper. Jabbar Muhammad. Yeah, we lost a corner to Washington, which I will never understand. Why somebody would leave Oklahoma State University to go to flipping fracking Washington. It's dumb. I know that nowadays the money side of things does have to come into play. I get that. But you lose Jabbar Muhammad. Okay, so that's another loss. You go look at safety. You lose Jason Taylor III. It is obviously a very big loss. But then outside of that, what do you lose? You lost, a receiver in Bryson Green that proved that he could be a very valuable get, but we also saw on film that he takes some plays off, right? So is it a big loss? I don't know. Somebody else like a Braylon Presley. Is it a big loss? Probably not. But the only big loss we're going to see in the wide receiver room, in my opinion, is Stephon Johnson Jr., right? Boogie's going to be a big loss. But if the simplification of an offense is realistic, and we are seeing signs of that, then it's not that big of a deal anyways. But you know what is a big deal? For you to get yourself in the best position to make a little extra change. And who doesn't want to make a little bit of extra money right now in today's society? So if your change is acting a little strange, your money's acting a little funny, maybe you can help yourself. The tournament is definitely heating up. It's busted everybody's brackets all over the place. This has been the wildest year to do a bracket, which was fun. Like, we jumped in a big O State group, right, of us. It ended up being like 20-something people, I guess. And we weren't in the tournament, and I was still feeling pretty jaded. So I didn't put a lot of effort into it. Matter of fact, I had Oral Roberts University, because they're from Oklahoma. I had them going to like the Elite 8 or Sweet 16. I had fun with it. My bracket's crap, but it's still a lot of fun to keep up with it, right? Because as the bracket narrows, I still have a lot of teams in. Even though I've had a lot of teams lose, I still have a lot of teams that can make the Final Four. So I have a shot, as they say. So you're saying there's a chance. But do not miss out on this opportunity right now. It is America's #1 sportsbook in FanDuel. You're going to get the no sweat first bet, which is up to $1,000 back on bonus bets if your first bet does not win. So just download the FanDuel app right now. It is safe, secure, and obviously super easy to use. You can bet on a multitude of things: money lines, point spreads, point scorers, threes drained, next possession. And then you can also combine your bets for a chance at bigger payouts with the same game parlay. Do not miss your chance to get your hands on this no sweat first bet, up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Again, that is FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more now. Make every moment matter more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right. So now let's kind of, stay on this spring trend. I don't want to buy that we're in a rebuild. I don't at all. But that seems to be the verbiage that we're purposely putting out there. And, if we're going from the salesmanship aspect, right? Under promise, over deliver. If we're doing that, okay, that's great. I'm fine with that. And we're really in that position where we need to win. We knew this last season we had a lot of question marks. So as a staff, right? Not necessarily players, but as a staff. And we didn't do anything realistically to change that, right? So Gundy's doubling down on last season. So he's really put himself in a position where he needs to win. Another thing that I've seen recently, right? Some of the conversations that I've seen on social media about Gundy's comments about Coach Brian Nardo being the best coach available for us here at Oklahoma State, right? That's the exact quote. Best coach available for us here at Oklahoma State. And then he also talked about how he interviewed several people, and Coach Nardo was kind of down on the list. But then he also said there's only like 4 or 5 people in the country available that run the system that he wanted. So I don't know. That's slightly contradictory. And realistically, the heat that he's catching is like, what I'm seeing on social media, the common consensus is, quote unquote, if this is the best we can really get, then we're in serious trouble. I think, yeah, that's a true statement. If Coach Nardo, somebody from Gannon University, is the best we can physically possibly get, then yeah, we do have serious problems. But I don't necessarily buy that side of it, because we just got Derek Mason. So we just proved we can bring big boy coaches in from big boy schools in the SEC if we want to. But that's the thing, guys. Here's why I bring this up. If you've been following Coach Mike Gundy for a long time, you typically, what he's saying. And in my research, what he's saying is, yes, we could have got somebody, quote unquote, better, but they weren't going to be a good fit. AKA, Coach Gundy always brings guys in that he knows he can control, and he knows that they won't turn around and leave in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. The keeping a staff together for a long time, I understand that. I get that. I think it's good for Oklahoma State. I think it's good for a lot of places. But when you're choosing friendships over productivity, I don't know. That should be an issue, right? That should be something that's talked about. But again, if you read between the lines, it's all about control, and it's all about finding somebody that'll stay for a long time. Now, with that being said, I will try to put my Brian Nardo video attached when this video is over, so you can check that out. I'm very high on Brian Nardo. I actually do think he's a very good hire. Do I have a problem with the way Gundy does his hiring? Kind of. In the beginning, no. Like bringing in Mike Yurcich was, I thought, a very good idea, because you don't want to have a revolving door of coaches. But at the same time, like if you have a coach that comes in that can add that massive amount of productivity almost instantaneously, even if it's 2 years, 3 years down the line, that's one thing. But using it as a handicap still, right, 8-10 years later, that I don't necessarily agree with. And I don't understand it. Because if you relinquish some control, I don't know, maybe it could be beneficial. Who knows? I think he's a good hire. I really, really do. I just don't necessarily buy into the way Gundy necessarily goes about it. There are a lot of interesting things coming out of spring. Now, there are some updates on quarterback. Big updates, I would say, but I have not got them confirmed by enough people yet for me to kind of go with that. So we'll leave that one for a little bit later on. One of the interesting things is you're seeing Colin Oliver move to more of a linebacker role, right? He's going to be a stand-up type of guy. So you can envision like a Von Miller, right? And it's going to give us a lot more flexibility at linebacker, which I don't think we're hurting at linebacker as much as people think with the loss of Mason Cobb, right? That's another big loss. But you bring in somebody like a Justin Wright, I do think that fills that gap immediately. Anybody who can have 111, 120 some odd tackles anywhere is going to be able to fill a void. And now we've got Colin Oliver that's rotating in that linebacker role as well. So we're doing some things predicated upon more 3-down lineman sets. Why? Because it seems to be a problem. TCU runs it. Iowa State runs it. A lot of other places run it. And it's really hard to prepare for if you have the team speed around it. And one of the reasons I think Brian Nardo is a very good get, because he has played in a multitude of defenses. He's called games from a multitude of defenses, whether it be the 3-3-5, 4-3, 3-4. So this stand-up guy that can rotate between linebacker and defensive end, it's something that's going to allow him to kind of spread his wings a little bit and show the world what he can do. So again, I think it's a good hire. And I like Colin Oliver moving more into a linebacker style of role. He's gotten a little bit quicker. He's shed 5-6 pounds already. He's not going to shed a lot because he is still going to be dealing with defensive ends, or offensive tackles on a decent amount. So, we're not going to change a whole lot there. But then you look over to, we know that we've simplified the offense. We know that the running game is going to be an emphasis this year. And part of that is going to be the tight ends. So we brought in Josiah Johnson. We also brought in Ian Edenfield. Those are two guys who fit the prototypical tight end role, or at least that's what they were doing at the previous school. And then you have Josiah Johnson's come in. Looks pretty good. He's put on 23 pounds, and he's got the frame to body by glass it for another 12, 15 pounds by the time fall camp rolls around. So he's going to be able to provide, almost instantaneously, which we need that. And you've got somebody like Braden Cassidy coming back to play cowboy back, quote unquote, tight end for another year. No, not so fast. He's been converted to a fullback. And I think that that's a good spot for him. So you have some traditional tight ends now, and then you have some people like Leon Johnson III and Blaine Green that are going to be able to kind of spread out and be mismatch problems. So now we have a true tight end, and then we also have the opportunity to have 6'5", 6'4", 6'6" slot receivers. That's going to be huge. That's going to be absolutely massive for opening up the offense for the running game. And guys, I'm very sold on Leon Johnson. I will say one thing that I found was odd, right? So Leon Johnson, he's the transfer from George Fox University, 6'6", 235 pounds, has a 36-inch vertical, former basketball player, former baseball player, dad coached basketball. And I've talked multiple times about how what happened was a San Diego Charger scout recommended that he go D1 because he's wasting his talent at George Fox University. I find it odd that Gundy actually had never heard that. He said that was news to him, which, I mean, you can peel that back on your own. But Gundy also said that, you have to understand the nuances of the defenses more. So I got to give props to Gundy here. He said the last year or so, he's put a lot of time in to just learning defensively what needs to be done. And what Jim Knowles was doing as opposed to a Bill Clay or a Bill Young. So I appreciate him really diving in and understanding defensively what we're doing and what we need. So hopefully we see that this year on the field, because going to more of a 3-down set for your defensive linemen, it's because you have a lot of athleticism. It's because you have a lot of team speed, which we've known that for quite some time. And when you talk to somebody like Lyric Rawls, like, he loves the ability they have now to just completely fly around. It's a lot less thinking, a lot more doing. That does set yourself up to be potentially misaligned or, play action to death. But if you have the aggressive tendencies and you have the athleticism and speed to make it happen, stretch things out sideline to sideline, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all comes together. Another interesting tidbit that we have to get into, right? Gundy said that he was confused and surprised by a couple of our transfers that left Oklahoma State. Now, obviously, you guys know that I have an issue with that statement, because maybe he doesn't know, right? I don't buy that. There's no way he doesn't know. There's no way he doesn't know why all these dudes left. Some of them, yes, I get it. That's a complete surprise. But some of them, you knew exactly what was going to happen, because you knew exactly how the season went, right? And we brought up Spencer Sanders earlier, right? That's another one. He mentioned specifically Spencer Sanders was somebody that simply just wanted to go play somewhere else. That's a bold-faced lie, and he knows it. Spencer Sanders left because Spencer Sanders was sold a bill of goods that didn't happen throughout the course of the season, before the season even started. Spencer Sanders was sold on some stuff that didn't take place. Therefore, it's natural for him to go look for somewhere. So I didn't appreciate that, right? Gundy said that there's only a handful of reasons people leave, and it's either because of, playing time, or they were just uncomfortable with the situation they were in, and they just wanted to go somewhere else. I can't remember what the third one was, or the second one. But yeah, he said it was playing time, uncomfortability, or dagnabbit. It makes me angry. I can't remember the other one. But regardless, like, yeah, I don't know. I do get that he can't talk about, right, the conversations that were had privately that led to the dissension in the locker room. But I don't appreciate him bold-faced just lying to people. Like, all he had to have said was, he didn't even have to bring up Spencer Sanders' name, actually. Like, there was no need to specifically bring up Spencer and then follow it up with Spencer left because he simply just wanted to go somewhere else. Now, come on, man. That's a lie. Stop lying to people. You don't have to disclose everything. We get that. But stop lying to us, brother. Another interesting thing was no spring game this year because of construction on one side of the stadium. And now we're hearing that next year there won't be a spring game either, most likely, because they're going to do construction on the other side of the flipping seats. That is ridiculous, right? That is just pure, plain and simple laziness. There is a plethora. I'm talking about a plethora within walking distance of places they could hold the spring game. They just don't want to, right? And Gundy even said it doesn't benefit us at all to have a spring game right now. Okay. Now you're saying it doesn't benefit you to have one next year either because you know there's going to be construction? Like, come on, y'all. I mean, I get the spring game. It's more about the fans and the people on the bottom half of the depth chart. That's what the spring game is for. I get that. It doesn't always necessarily benefit the starters, but it does benefit those underclassmen. It does benefit the guys that are trying to crack the 2 deep. It does benefit the guys that are in that third place position. It benefits their family, their friends. Everybody gets to come watch. And the fan base, yes, it does give us an opportunity, like Leon Johnson III. Who doesn't want to see our new 6'6", 220-pound wide receiver? Who doesn't want to see that? Who doesn't want to see the new production from the tight end position? Who doesn't want to watch the position battles we have right now at running back and wide receiver, which are pretty awesome? The O-line is in a very, very odd, not odd, I would say good situation. So you're hearing a lot of out of camp right now when it comes to the offensive line that we could be seeing 4 new guys. Mind you, we return 99.9% of our offensive line roster, and we could already have 4 new guys starting. That's impressive, right? That's not a slight at the players who were already here last year. I think that is more of I don't know, propping up the guys that we have now, right? So we knew that Preston Wilson was kind of going to be the unquestioned leader, but then you got to remember Cole Birmingham's back, and Cole Birmingham has multiple starts under his belt. So even though he's new, he's not really new, but he didn't start last year, so technically he is a new guy. Jason Queso Brooks, he wasn't a full-time starter last year, right? He really didn't become a starter there towards the end of the game, even though even up until that, he graded out as the best guard on the team collectively throughout the entirety of the season. He does make some stupid boneheaded mistakes, which I think the maturity side of things is gonna be big for him this year. So he's fighting. Dalton Cooper, the 6'7" transfer that in 1,328 snaps only allowed 7 sacks, right? That guy, he's in a competition right now with somebody like a Caleb Etienne, a returning starter. Everybody was really high, and Caleb Etienne comes in. He's a mountain of a man, 6'8", almost 400 pounds. He had to shed 65 pounds in 2 years before he could really be productive. So this is yet another season of him having the body by glass to get himself in a better position. So he's competing now. Joe Mikulski played quite a few games, right? Taylor Materko has started multiple games. I think Calvin Harvey's a good prospect, 6'8", 350 pounds, had a year in the system now, had a year to develop his body. He's coming in now as a redshirt freshman, second year in the system. Yeah, I'm really confident with the offensive line. I'm very, very confident with the offensive line. And you do have to take into consideration, last year we lost 10, 12, some odd transfers on the O-line. So last year for spring, we were really hamstrung on what we could and couldn't do in practice as far as getting reps, right? So even having a spring game last year with all of the craziness we had going on the O-line, not super beneficial. Except for, like, this is the part of the equation I don't understand. We tend to forget somehow that spring game is for the 2D, the fans, the brothers, the sisters, the cousins, the parents. And we're just not going to do it. 2 years in a row, we're just not going to do it. Can somebody please tell me how that's going to benefit everybody? Who benefits by not having a spring game? Because this whole talk of it doesn't benefit us as a team at all to have a spring game. It may be the case, but doesn't it mean we're alienating people even more, potentially, possibly? Hell, we've talked about the tailgate scene. It's not like it used to be. It's still pretty good, but we're letting things infect us that shouldn't. Yeah, I don't appreciate getting lied to. I know with 100% certainty why Spencer left. And it wasn't because he just wanted to. I know why Braylon Presley and Boogie and Bryson left. And it's not because they just wanted to. Okay? So stop trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes. You don't have to stand up there on a podium and talk about a bunch of stuff. Like, you don't want any negative connotations going around. I get that. But don't lie to us, brother. We're going to keep buying tickets. We're going to keep coming to the games. We're going to keep supporting regardless of what does or does not happen. But again, just this little bubble box of keeping everything inside Boone Pickens Stadium. Can somebody also tell me how that's beneficial for the university? How it's beneficial for the growth of the fan base? How it's beneficial to the growth of the student body? I don't know. A lot of questions. I want to hear from you. You comment down below. Do you think all of this verbiage is purposely being put forth to give us the indication that it's going to be a rebuild and maybe we shouldn't expect anything much? It's a hard pill to swallow. So you tell me. So the next breakdown we're going to do is going to be over the running back position. And I'm trying to swing something extra for that. So I want to do a breakdown and then bring another guest on the show, whether it be a Tatum Bell or Kai Staley or somebody like that, to do a breakdown of my breakdown of the position. So I think I'm going to try to pull that off. It's going to be interesting how this spring goes, because I'm telling you, things are in a very tight box, tighter than ever. Getting information right now, it's more difficult than it's ever been. And it's always been, you got to piece it together, right? You got to take what this person says and this person says and that person and get it through the people inside the locker room and then get it through, through the interviews and stuff, right? You got to dissect a lot of what's going on through multiple sources and multiple avenues. That's always been the case. But I'm telling you, it's more difficult now than ever before. So, until the next one, as always, I love you all. God bless. Go Pokes. And I'll see you around the turn, and we get to talk about the running back position. All righty, y'all. Later.